So we live in a world today where the mainstream narrative basically says that it's bad to be a man. That especially if you're a straight man, you inherit all of the sins of the dreaded patriarchy. And so this got me thinking about pride in general, and then got me thinking more about what is masculine pride? What is a healthy masculine pride? Is there such a thing? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. And let's start this off by defining what pride is. I think pride is basically just looking at some aspect of yourself and saying that this is good. Okay, that's it. And you can take pride in immutable characteristics, like pride over your race, ethnicity, or something like that, where you come from. But then you can also take pride in your accomplishments, things that you've earned. Now, pride in being a man seems about as valid as pride in, being Latino or a woman or whatever. Okay. I mean, there's a whole month dedicated to gay pride, LGBTQ pride. If you can have that, then you should for sure be able to have pride in just being a man and, being heterosexual. And if you can have it and be proud of another set of immutable characteristics, then you should be able to be proud of you as a man. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward. And anyone who says that's wrong, I think is either lacking in intelligence or morals. But I think things get a little bit more tricky when we start talking about the things that are not immutable. All right, talking about being proud of your accomplishments, being proud of what you have, what you're worth. Okay, and the reason why I think this is tricky is because this is where we have the danger of falling into false pride. And so let's break this down. If you were going to describe someone as a proud man, it was like if someone were one of the first things they described you as, he's a very proud man. What does that mean? On one hand, you can kind of take it as a positive thing, because it says that person has a sense of worth to themselves. They have a real sense of self. They have maybe even a sense of honor to them. But I also think that that's kind of a double-edged compliment, where it's there's also, they're speaking to some weakness as well. And what is the weakness being thought of? If I hear someone being described heavily as a proud man, well, I hear positive, but the negative that I hear is that they do not like to hear about their deficiencies, that they struggle with it. And this is what I think false pride is. False pride is the unwillingness to acknowledge, honestly, your deficiencies. And I think that all of us are like this to some degree. We don't want to look at the things that make us look bad. We don't want to do this, because if we do that, then we take a little hit in our brain, our little status mechanism that's constantly monitoring, how good or bad we are, that determines the flow of our neurochemicals, that determines whether our brain releases serotonin and dopamine, or it releases cortisol, making us feel like shit. Okay. That's constantly monitoring our status. And so the proud man, what he does is he tries to avoid seeing any of his deficiencies, because if he can avoid seeing those deficiencies, then he can avoid that little burst of cortisol that makes him feel self-conscious and, not good enough, makes him feel like, I'm stressed now. I got to fix that. There's something wrong. Okay. And that's really, I think, a bad thing. And I think there have been many men who have equated this unwillingness, this inability to see shortcomings in themselves as a strength. Their pride as a man, right? I'll see this a lot in the red pill sphere, where guys will take pride in never admitting when they're wrong, never apologizing, that sort of thing. And from if we're talking a tactics level, interpersonal tactics level, yes, sometimes it is appropriate to not admit that you are wrong, to not apologize under certain circumstances where you really need to display strength and that sort of thing. Like if you're doing hardcore negotiations, even in intersexual dynamics, sometimes women might like it if you maintain frame, if you don't actually concede the point. They want to have that tension. They want to have that polarity where the man is playing the strong role. Okay. So I get that, but I think some guys take it so far as to actually not even be able to see their own deficiencies. There is a time and a place to show strength and confidence, but you should never lie to yourself. You should never actually pretend you are good at something when perhaps you are not. You should never pretend like there is no issue when there clearly is. This is where pride, I think, goes really wrong. And I would say that the feminists are correct in criticizing men for having this tendency in them. I would also, kind of push back that women have the exact same tendency. It's just a human tendency to be unwilling to see our deficiencies. Now, one of the weird things I see is that I'm starting to see almost like a flip side to this false pride idea, which is equally as bad, which is a pridelessness, which is basically saying like, all right, I see these evil men with their false pride, and so I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction, and I'm just going to hate myself totally. Nothing I do is good enough. I'm just, I just suck, and somehow, usually when guys do this kind of path, they've really indoctrinated, swallowed this anti-male philosophy. And what they're doing, ironically, is that they are trying to earn status points. They're like, I hate myself so much that makes me good, right? I'm an ally. They're trying to play the game in just a different way, right? They're trying to gain pride in their moral degradation of themselves because that's what the narrative they're trying to please caters to. Okay. And this is also screwed up. Okay. This is lying about the fact that you actually have intrinsic goodness. You do have ability. You do have power. And it's just ignoring all of that because you're trying to seem self-effacing in a self-serving manner. So where do we want to end up? Where do we actually want to be in terms of our pride? Well, I think the key is you got to be completely honest. Okay. Completely honest. And so what this means is it's connected to the truth, only the truth, and it's got to be loving. And I think ultimately what this brings us to is a state of humble pride, honest and loving acknowledgement of the truth. That's it. Okay. And so what does this mean? If you're doing this, then one of the first things that you're going to have to do is love your brokenness. What does that mean? This is a concept that I used to kind of hate in Christianity and Christian speaking, where there's people always crying out to God. It's like, oh, we are so broken. Save us, Lord. Oh, I'm such a sinner. Oh, and just like people just like jerking off to this self-effacing sort of stuff. And it used to make me want to fucking vomit. I hated it. And in part because I didn't want to admit my own deficiencies. Okay, that was definitely part of it. And I think there's definitely maybe like this pridelessness going on where people are trying to gain status by being extra self-effacing and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we all do have deficiencies. We do, legitimately, right? And so think about it like this. Here's a little weird analogy. If you love your house, imagine you've got a house, you just love this house, a great spot, just filled with character, feels like home. Okay, if you're gonna love your house, and it's dirty, what does loving your house mean? It means cleaning it, right? If you're going to love that house and that house has a tree fall on it and the roof gets broken, what does loving that house mean? It means fixing the roof, right? It's the same deal with us. If we notice deficiencies in ourselves, if we love our brokenness, it doesn't mean that we are embracing the brokenness as, oh, this is who we are, we're just broken. No. Loving it means that we seek the good. And so we seek the good for our broken bits by putting them back together, trying to find healing, find integration. And so we got to love our brokenness, but we also have to love our power. We have to love our accomplishments, right? So if you have a good ability, for me, I can string a sentence or two together and I can think about things for long periods of time. And because of that, that's an ability that I have. And so I got to think, well, how can I love that? Well, if I seek the good for that ability, where does it fit in this world? Well, hopefully, to some degree, it fits right here on YouTube, going into your ears, and you find it useful. And if not, that's at least the intention. I can love that talent, or at least that desire inside of myself, right? And so we got to do this with our other aspects too, right? Like if you've got an ability, even if it's just an openness to do something, an ability to serve, we have to love that. We have to put it in its proper place. And if you do good things with it, then you should be proud of those good things. I am proud of the men that I have helped quit porn, who I've helped, improve their life, become more productive, become more sound, more connected to themselves. It's only right for me to be proud of that because that's good stuff. For me to say that that's not good would be lying. It'd be lying. It would be some sort of like stupid humble thing where people, they do good things and like, oh, I didn't do that good. Oh, no, that wasn't good. No. It's just like, no, you're lying. It is good. Get over yourself. And be proud of yourself, okay? And then, so we got to love our brokenness. We got to love our power. but we also have to love our immutable characteristics, okay? So this means that we have a life, all right? We've got our race and our sexuality and all this kind of stuff. And like, yes, those are good. Love those things. They're great. You can't change them. They're good. But what about your just fundamental essence? This is where I think the root of it all comes down to. Your dignity. Do you love yourself and your life? Are you willing to look at your life, your spark of divine nature that is manifest in this material world? Can you label that as a good thing? Can you embrace that as a good thing? If you can do that unconditionally, well, then that is the source of your power. That is where you find the infinite justification to sacrifice for your own benefit, which you need because you're broken, at least on some level, right? You need that because otherwise, if we just look at our brokenness and we look at our, measurable status, we're all deficient. None of us are quite measuring up. And so we need to have that ability to say, even though that's the case, I'm still good. I'm still worth the effort. And then on the flip side, if you've got good stuff, you've got money, power, ability, charisma, all that kind of thing, you need to still come back to that intrinsic value because none of that shit raises your intrinsic value. It doesn't put you above other people. You got to pop that little ego balloon that would tell you otherwise, because that's just gonna screw you up. If you act on that, you're gonna start doing, progressively worse and worse things. And likely it's going to set you up for an even greater stress when that status you do have ultimately gets challenged. But when you have that intrinsic sense of worth, that's where you get your rock solid sense of confidence, peace, and purpose. So that's what I think it means to be a proud man. A proud man is a man who is able to see his immutable characteristics as good. He's also able to see his accomplishments as good. But he is not, at least this proud man with humility, he is never lying to himself. He is never self-deceptive, and he is always seeking the ultimate truth. So that's what I have for you guys today. And if you're looking for a place where you can talk with other men around these kind of concepts, you're looking for a place where you can go deeper into your own self, you're looking for a place where you can do the real work of masculine development, well, then you're going to want to check out the Self-Mastery Club, which is my personal self-development community that I built from scratch. We've got hundreds of guys in there, and it is a fantastic environment for any guy who's looking to live on the front lines of his life and unleash his apex potential. So click the link if you're interested in finding out more about that. And ooh yeah, I'll see you on the next one.